Good evening, I'm Lisa Broom, and this is the CBC Evening News. It was like the scene of a movie playing out in a western at Westbury Cemetery this morning as workers ran for their lives. Reports are that two young men entered the cemetery just after 9 o'clock and engaged in a shootout while workers were going about their duties. CBC understands numerous gunshots rang out in the area and the gunmen escaped through the northern gate onto President Kennedy Drive. As a result, several policemen converged on the scene, but by then the men had fled the area. Several terrified residents told CBC what they witnessed.
It was country and western in here this morning. One had two and one had one. They only missed the horse from one gate to the last gate, shooting. The workers in West Bay is not safe. We had to run for our life. Police need to do something about it. It need to do something about now. This is the second time.
I was just coming to the office, and just as I come out the office, I hear the first parts, and then I look back, I see two men, one with one gun, and the other one with two. And the shooting and come up, they get below the office, and they went right up, and when they get to the gate, one went through the gate, and the other one tried to cut it off there, and he went over there, so.
It was just a little after 9 this morning. I heard a lot of gunshots from the cemetery. So I called for my son and asked him if there's gunshots, and he told me yes. So then I came out to him, and we were by the side door, but inside when the bullet struck the house. And we dropped to the floor because it was very frightening.
A work stoppage at the Winston Scott Polyclinic earlier today as employees protested what they deemed as unsatisfactory working conditions and non-functioning air-conditioned units. As a result, they called in their representatives, the National Union of Public Workers, to investigate the matter. Acting Deputy General Secretary of the NUPW, Delcia Burke, visited the polyclinic and told reporters the air conditioning units were not working and the nurses could not continue under those conditions. She also cited the need for industrial cleaning at the health facility.
Yeah, the NUPW got a call this morning. We came to the premises and were advised that the air conditioning units were not working and the building was extremely hot. There were also some other environmental issues, but the main issue was the issue of the malfunctioning or not functioning air conditioning units. The permanent secretary came and met with us and with the nurses. He heard the issues and a plan has been put in place for the issues to be dealt with. So the workers have gone back to work.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Tennyson Springer, met with the workers and visited the areas cited as problems. This included the pharmacy storeroom, which reportedly has poor ventilation.
We had a situation this morning where a number of persons complained about the lack of cooling. Apparently, with the very hot conditions, we've had a number of air conditioning units out, and it's been causing a problem for some of the staff, especially where there are internal services and internal rooms. What we've met with the technical persons, and we've made arrangements to replace some units urgently and provide some temporary cooling in other areas until such time as we can get all the units in place.
It's understood that 12 new AC units arrived at the polyclinic after the protest actions and are to be installed by weekend. Mr. Springer thanked the NUPW for its cooperation along with the workers, whom he says have promised to cooperate fully with the ministry as it resolves the problem. He says other work-related issues which surfaced were discussed with the NUPW, and they are satisfied these will be put behind them soon, since plans have been identified to address them in the medium to long term. Employers are being encouraged to talk with employees to prevent grievances from escalating to industrial action. This is the advice from Minister of Labour, Social Security and Human Resource Development, Senator Dr. Esther Bayer, as she made the call for employers to practice consultation. She was speaking at the NUPW headquarters at the 10th seminar of the National Bipartite Meeting.
We have just had the maturity of our social partnership tested by our recent economic difficulties. Employers, including government, have had to make changes to reduce operational costs, including labor, and this has caused some tension. Employers, including the statutory agencies, deviated from the spirit of consultation with regrettable consequences. But there is a positive side, I believe, to this faux pas. it has shown the partners that the tried and tested mechanism of true consultation is the way, the best way.
Minister Bayer says dialogue plays an integral role in the development of social partnerships. Once national dialogue is achieved, regional discussions will be successful.
The success of social dialogue at the regional level requires the systematic institutionalization of the national social dialogue processes and the culture which embraces all policy areas. And we also agree that the capacity of social partners must be supported to ensure that their interventions to such tripartite fora and consultations add substantive value, which is what I was referring to, that our consultations must add value and not just be where one side talks and the other side listens, but we want that our consultations add value.
The high number of acting appointments in the public service must be dealt with. This from General Secretary of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados, Dennis DePisa. He was giving an update on the 4 resolutions passed at the most recent conference. He spoke to members of the media on the sidelines of a national bipartite meeting.
We agree that we have seen some indications within the Ministry of Education, but we think within the wider public service, in order to ensure that we have effective management in place, because persons who are in positions who have security of tenure, we believe are more comfortable in their jobs, and to give them greater level of security in terms of their own personal development. And we would hope that the government sees this as an important matter to be addressed.
Flash flooding in the north of the island this afternoon resulted in the early closure of the Alexandra School in St. Peter. The entire school was virtually flooded, forcing scores of the children to wade through water to make their way home. Some others were collected by their parents and guardians. It followed about 2 straight hours of rainfall from about 12 noon and affected several parts of the school, including the main parking area in front of the principal's office, which was heavily flooded. The flooding also affected other areas in Speightstown and surrounding communities. Legislation is coming to ensure businesses take fire safety seriously. Through the new Shops Act, businesses will be required to have a fire safety certificate each year. The Safety and Health at Work Act also contains certain fire safety provisions. There have been calls for action to address the situation, particularly following the Campus Trends tragedy. Minister of Labour, Senator Dr. Esther Bayer, says fire and its hazards are real.
We won't tell the chief fire officer how to do his job because it's different things for different environments, and they know what they're looking for, and they are trained in that regard. And once they have that certificate, then they'll have to put that up, because if they don't have that up, then they can be in for a fine. But it speaks to means of escape in case of a fire. Equipment for firefighting should be in place, like a fire extinguisher should be in place. And persons should be trained how to use the fire extinguisher as well.
While addressing a DLP St. George South Branch meeting, Minister Bayer acknowledged that some facilities are one door and it may be difficult to change this. The Labour Minister also revealed with the new Shops Act, Barbados will see extended working hours. It comes as the island moves towards a 24/7 society.
It will make new provision for the opening and closing hours of shops. As I said, it's going to allow for 159 hours. That's 24/6 plus some. All right? And it will make better provisions for the terms and conditions of service under which shop assistants are employed. It will also make better provision for health and safety standards in the shops. Now, when the legislation is passed, what will happen is that if you are operating then certain nighttime operations, the Chief Labour Officer will have to ensure that you have certain things in place.
Well, Barbados has the intellectual capacity to find solutions to any of the problems which it faces. But the Finance Minister says implementation and follow-ups are among the major shortcomings. Chris Sinclair was addressing a public sector leadership conference hosted by the Cave Hill School of Business. He used the example of Government Stability Program, which was rolled out in 2010, but had to be revised in 2013 because several targets had not been met in time. According to Mr. Sinclair, when examined, there was a noticeable slowdown in the pace of implementation across the system.
The Monitoring and Evaluation Status Report, which was published at March 2013 indicated, just for the numbers, that approximately 284 policy measures were announced, both in those statements, the budget, and in the medium-term fiscal strategy, between July 2009 and August 2012. Out of these measures, action would have been completed on 162, an implementation ratio, I am advised, of about 57% of the overall, for the overall period 2009 to 2013, 12-13.
Mr. Sinclair says based on that knowledge, a dedicated strategy of ongoing monitoring, evaluation, and problem solving was used.
There is some evidence to suggest that that performance in the implementation has improved to some significant degree despite the fiscal constraints which we face. And the number of activities increased from a mere 41 to 194 over the period, that is 2013 to now, with another 88 initiatives in terms of more strategic actions well in advance of their implementation schedules.
Up next, we'll have regional and international news. Stay with us.
Shopping in the sky is simply delicious, and our mouth-watering